So I'm 37 years old and I live in New Zealand now. I came across women's cycles actually on YouTube because I experienced symptoms from my prolapse. I can't really remember exactly when this was, but I think it started around, should have been April this year. A video that kept popping up, and that was the women's cycles video. Started clicking into it, was just looking for something different. I had been seeing a physiotherapist. I just didn't really feel like I was getting anywhere. I didn't really know what I was doing, and I felt like what Philippa was saying was just something that it just spoke to me. I could just really relate, and that's when I decided to take on a different approach and try these different methods that women's cycles has to offer. So yeah, I think now it's probably been like on the actual program, it's been 3 months, I'd say. I have like a stage 1 to 2 uterine prolapse and about a stage 2 bladder prolapse. And when I signed up, I was feeling a lot of heaviness and bulging. And I was really suffering mentally. I think I felt extremely trapped. I didn't know what to do. I felt like I was in the darkest, deepest hole in the world, and I just did not understand where to even start. But it wasn't like I left my appointments with her with like a clear plan. This is what I'm going to do. It was more of like general kind of guidance and general advice. And I always had so many questions. Like I needed answers to these questions because they were just eating me from the inside. And going on Google is just, it's not good for you. Like, it's just so much information that can be completely wrong. And it just makes you even more the feeling of that kind of heaviness, like a tampon was sliding out. When I lift my son, when I, jump around with my daughter, like it was just always at the back of my mind, and it was driving me crazy. And I am a very active person. I go to the gym 5 times a week. So yeah, the symptoms that I was in the beginning, it was more the heaviness and the bulging, but it wasn't like there was never any pain. There was a little bit of incontinence as well. I was stupid. I just didn't do anything about it. And then I had my second child and I still didn't do anything about it. A 10, because it was just the whole experience of being in the situation where I felt I had no control over my own body. It is probably the worst thing I've ever experienced. Like I said to my husband, you cannot compare this, like any flu, any disease that, when you've been really, really unwell. I would much rather go through that again than this, because it felt like I could not control my body, and I felt like there was a war inside me. I could not, whatever I did, I felt like I was making my symptoms worse. Much better, but I've had to adjust along the way. And I can say that during the 3 months on this program, I have made so many decisions, and then that doesn't work. So I really had to try to adjust my lifestyle and especially my training according to like how I feel on a daily basis. So if I go to the gym and I do a set of exercises and I come home and I feel that heaviness, I know that I've done something that was too much. As long as I'm symptom-free, I don't feel as held back by this. I know it's still there. I know that the prolapse is still there, but as long as I'm not feeling that heaviness and the bulging, it's more okay. Because I haven't actually had any symptoms now for probably 1 or 2 weeks, which is the longest it's been for me since I started experiencing the symptoms. So at the moment, I will probably say that I don't feel any heaviness. I don't feel any bulging. My incontinence is very minimal. I can't even remember last time that I had a leak. On a scale from 1 to 10, I'd probably say maybe a 2. I actually had a prolapse 3 weeks after I had my son 2 years ago, And I had a pretty stressful pregnancy. We were building this house while I was pregnant, 3 weeks before we moved into the house, and it's just not a good time to be moving house when you've just had a baby. And that's when I felt the first symptoms of a prolapse. And I went to my GP, and she said there was a prolapse. She said there was a swelling of the vaginal wall, and all I had to do was to go home and rest. That I had done a little bit too much by lifting these boxes. So she still didn't say anything about, hold on, okay, have you been doing your pelvic floor exercises because you've had 2 children? And I just want to make sure that, we're on top of things, because things can get worse if you haven't done anything to your pelvic floor. That's what I wish she would have told me, but she didn't say anything. Go home and rest. So I did, and it went away. And I didn't experience any symptoms of a prolapse until this year, in April or whatever. I was on a very, very strict and heavy weightlifting program. I had a personal trainer. It was a slow build up over maybe 2-3 weeks of just overworking, having that wide stance on the leg press, and I felt like, Jesus Christ, this is too heavy. And it was like I was pushing, like when you're delivering a baby, pretty much. And I went home, and I just felt that same feeling like I had felt when I had just delivered my baby and we were moving into the house. And I knew, I just knew that this is not right. And I went to see my physiotherapist, and she said that she's not a gynecologist, so she didn't say, she never said anything about a bladder prolapse. She actually said there is a uterine. Okay, this is not good. And then after seeing her, I felt it was daunting. It was really daunting. And you just wish that you could rewind and just go back in time and just undo, I had a physiotherapist back in Australia. She put together a program for me, and I started doing these exercises, and I really struggled in the beginning. And it wasn't about like the squeeze. It was more of a lift. I feel like a lot of videos on YouTube, they just make you kind of squeeze, which is, I feel like back in the 80s, it was the squeeze. That's not really how you do it anymore. Struggling so much in the beginning, I could not even do some of the exercises. And same thing with my physiotherapist. Some stuff that she told me to do, she was very like hands-on. Like, she would do internal examinations. The muscles were contracting, and what was going on inside. So that was super helpful. But yeah, I was very disconnected to my pelvic floor and very weak. So I think those two, apart from doing all my own research online, which I think just made things worse. I never went to my doctor because I don't really have faith in doctors. I feel like I had been let down in the past. During the time when they could have actually done something to help me to prevent this, but they didn't. There were warning signs already when I had my first symptoms. I did not want to go back to a general practitioner, but at that one time I did, and I could feel it with my finger. And I emailed her, and because I was so scared, I thought my cervix had that the whole uterus had come down even more. Since I saw her, and I emailed her and I said, hey, look, I can feel my cervix with my finger. Should I be worried? And this was a Friday afternoon, and she was about to leave, and she wrote back to me, oh, that's not good. And then she said something else, and I wrote back to her, but it was too late. She had already gone for the day, and she left me with those words over the whole weekend. Oh, that's not good. And I honestly, I was beside myself. I thought, oh my God, what have I done? It hadn't made anything worse. It's just that I had never really felt it before, and I just happened to do it that Friday. I was already so scared and worried, absolutely horrible. So she could give me exercise and things like that, but then also be quite blunt and just leave me with all these unanswered questions, and just make me feel like, is this ever gonna get better? Wouldn't you just say to someone in my situation something more positive? I just felt like I wasn't getting anywhere. and I was so desperate to do something. I felt like I was wasting my time. I felt like I was held back. I couldn't do what I love to do, which is I just didn't want to waste any more time. So I felt like this video kept popping up on YouTube, and like I said, it was speaking to me. Women's Cycles was offering me something that was different, and I felt like I had nothing to lose. And there was clear evidence that it was working. And if it was working for others, then I felt like, why wouldn't it work for me? 2-3 weeks before, I got hypopressives kind of down packed, and mentally I can say that I felt a difference straight away. All of a sudden it felt like I was getting all this help, which made me feel a lot of the worry just kind of melted away. But I can 100% say that connecting to my pelvic floor and just the way that I can, how I'm doing, like, because I love Dr. Brianne, her lift exercises. I find her, I can relate a lot to her, and I find her amazing, and I love, because it's quite physical stuff, which is what I like. My body likes it. I have really seen massive improvements there. I can say after about a month, I felt like so much stronger. I feel like I'm super strong. I have a very strong pelvic floor. And that is because I have been doing it every single day, like every single day. I think that at the top, the number one is to have the support from you. Just being able to answer questions. I think that was my biggest thing. I felt like I was so lonely. This whole thing was surrounding me, and I was alone, and there was no one here to understand. Like, even if I talk to my mum, if I talk to my husband, they don't have a prolapse. They don't understand what it's like. And getting the answers from someone who's actually been through this, that was the biggest thing for me, just to have that. Number two is, I'd say, just to have a plan, something to follow. Like, I need structure, and I like that I have my exercises that I can choose between. I can kind of shape my program and make it fit in with my lifestyle, which has been really good. Third thing, I'd say the type of exercises, that it's a variety of both physical and mental. So it's like I'm a huge believer in, affirmations. Out of everything that I've tried, I love hypopressives. Love hypopressives. And Brianne's lift exercises. For me, that has been the biggest game changers. Those two in combination. I have recently started belly dancing, and I can feel like I love it. Oh yeah, definitely. I feel like I want to tell all my friends that are pregnant or have just had babies, like, you got to join here so you don't end up like, I just wish I had found Women's Cycles earlier. I wish it was around 6 years ago when I had my daughter and I was experiencing incontinence, because back then I could have done something, and I probably, wouldn't have been sitting here with a prolapse. I think Women's Cycles has got so much to offer. 100%.